Ever since I could remember, the atmosphere in our house was heavy with silence. It wasn't the comfortable kind of quiet, the kind that wraps around you like a soft blanket. No, this silence was suffocating, brimming with unspoken accusations and buried grief. My father had never been the same after my mother's death, and for reasons I never truly understood until I was older, he directed all his bitterness toward my younger sister, Mia. Mom died during childbirth. It was supposed to be a joyous occasion, but complications turned the day into a nightmare. The doctors couldn't save her, and my father's heart shattered that day. He was left with 2 children, me, at 6 years old, and a newborn baby who would never get to know her mother. From that moment on, my father's grief twisted into blame, and Mia became the unintended target. I grew up witnessing his coldness toward her. While he wasn't outright abusive, his neglect spoke volumes. Birthdays passed without gifts, praise was replaced with silence, and every little mistake she made seemed to validate his misplaced resentment. I tried my best to shield Mia from it, stepping in whenever I could, but even as her older brother, there was only so much I could do. Mia, for her part, bore it all with an eerie grace. She was quiet, introverted, and, most of all, forgiving. It amazed me how she never let his disdain taint her spirit. She excelled in school, made friends easily, and always carried a soft smile that felt almost defiant in its warmth. Still, I saw the cracks, the moments when she'd retreat to her room and cry, the way her face fell when Dad ignored her achievements. It broke my heart. Years passed, and the rift in our family deepened. I moved out at 18, desperate for freedom but racked with guilt for leaving Mia behind. We stayed close, though, texting and calling often. She'd visit me on weekends, and I'd try to give her the love and encouragement our father couldn't. By the time I turned 26, Mia had just started college, a bright future ahead of her despite everything. Then, one night, I got a call that changed everything. It was late, and I was half asleep when my phone buzzed on the nightstand. Groggily, I answered. "Hello? Nathan?" Mia's voice was shaky, her usual calm replaced with a trembling vulnerability that instantly woke me up. "Mia? What's wrong?" I sat up, my heart pounding. I need you to come get me. Please." 15 minutes later, I was outside our childhood home. Mia stood on the porch, clutching a duffel bag. Her face was pale, her eyes red-rimmed. Without a word, she climbed into the passenger seat, and we drove off. She didn't speak until we were back at my apartment. Over tea, she finally told me what happened. Dad had yelled at her again, blaming her for something trivial. But this time, he'd said it outright. "You cost me the love of my life. You're the reason she's gone." It was the first time he'd voiced what we all knew he felt, and it shattered her. "I can't stay there anymore, Nathan," she whispered, her voice breaking. "I tried to make him love me, or at least see me, but he never will." She moved in with me that night. It wasn't easy adjusting to having her around full-time, but it felt right. She deserved a home where she could feel safe, valued, and loved. Over time, she started to heal. She threw herself into her studies and hobbies, and I did my best to support her. In many ways, I felt like I was becoming a stand-in parent, a role I embraced wholeheartedly. One stormy evening, about a year later, we were sitting on the couch watching a movie when Mia turned to me with a hesitant smile. "Nathan? Yeah. You know you're more than just my brother, right? You've always been there for me. You've been like a dad to me." The words hit me like a freight train. Tears welled up in my eyes, and I pulled her into a hug. "Mia, you mean the world to me. I'll always be here for you." From then on, she started calling me Daddy occasionally, half jokingly at first, but with genuine affection. It became our little thing. A reminder of the bond we'd forged through hardship. I didn't realize how much it meant to me until one day when Dad showed up at my door unexpectedly, and in the pouring rain. I hadn't spoken to him in months. His sudden appearance caught me off guard. He looked older, more tired than I remembered, his face etched with regret. His clothes were drenched, his eyes hollow but brimming with emotion. "Nathan," he began, his voice unsteady. "Can we talk?" Reluctantly, I let him in. He sat on the couch, wringing his hands. The storm outside raged on, thunder rumbling as he struggled to find the words. "I've been doing a lot of thinking," he said finally. "About Mia. About your mother. About everything." I stayed silent, letting him continue. "I was wrong, Nathan. I let my grief consume me. I blamed Mia because it was easier than facing the truth. But I see now what I've done to her. To both of you." His voice cracked, and for the first time, I saw genuine remorse in his eyes. "She called you Daddy, didn't she?" he asked, a bittersweet smile tugging at his lips. "I overheard her on the phone with a friend. It broke my heart to realize she found in you what I should have been to her." The weight of his confession hung in the air, mingling with the storm's fury. Tears streamed down his face as he continued. "I want to make things right. I don't expect her to forgive me, but I need her to know I'm sorry." Before I could respond, Mia walked into the room then, stopping short when she saw him. Her expression hardened, but I noticed the flicker of vulnerability in her eyes. "Dad," she said quietly, her tone laced with both hurt and defiance. He stood, his posture uncertain. Lightning flashed through the window, illuminating his face. "Mia, I've been a terrible father. I can't take back the years I've wasted, but I want to try to be better. If you'll let me." The room was thick with tension. Mia looked at me, searching for guidance, and I gave her a small nod. She took a deep breath and said, "I don't know if I can forgive you, not yet. But I'm willing to try." It wasn't an instant resolution. But it was a start. Over the following months, Dad made genuine efforts to rebuild his relationship with Mia. He attended her college events, called her regularly, and even started going to therapy to confront his grief. Slowly, the walls began to come down. One evening, as we sat together for dinner, Mia turned to Dad and said, "You know, I called Nathan Daddy because he was there for me when you weren't. But I'd like to call you Dad again. If that's okay." His eyes filled with tears, and he nodded, his voice thick with emotion. "I'd like that very much. Our family wasn't perfect, and the scars of the past didn't vanish overnight. But for the first time in years, there was hope. The silence that once smothered us was replaced with laughter, conversation, and a sense of healing. We were finally finding our way back to each other, one step at a time."